Hello and welcome to another episode of Best of Three, presented by the Daily Dot. We'll talk more about that later in the show. We're your host, Efren. This is Mike. We do a weekly FGC talk show here on this Twitch channel, and we're going to change the order around tonight. We have our guests on first. We're flipping the order because for the second week in a row, our guests are coming straight from Japan. And it's early over there, and they have stuff to do, so we're going to take advantage.
And if I realize we got two for the price of one this week.
I was going to let that be a surprise. We booked a MarkMan, and we're very happy to be able to have done that, and we got a nice surprise. Why don't we go ahead and bring them on, MarkMan and special guest. Hello, guys.
Hey, how's it going? Mike, Efren, it's a pleasure to finally be on the show.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned, I do have a 2-for-1 deal for you. I got my good friend Zhi here as well.
I was in the poverty trenches and homeless, and Mark picked me up on the sidewalk in my sleeping bag, and here I am with them. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
You were living the Ryu lifestyle. You had the duffel bag, and you were just walking the streets.
And all that after making it on Shen Chang's Hotties at TGS list, too.
You guys have been doing a lot over there. Of course, you're in Japan. The Tokyo Game Show, I would imagine, is the main reason why you guys are there. But you guys, it looks like you got a lot out of that trip. Mark, I wanted to start with you. Let's rewind a little bit to EVO. You're up on stage on finals day there at the Mandalay Bay, and you finally announced that EVO Japan is going to move forward. Now, this weekend, you are over there in Japan with Mr. Wizard. What exactly is going on? What can you tell us about EVO Japan? How long has this been in the works? Why is it coming out now? And, why don't you just take it from the top?
Sure. Well, I'm going to say this to preface everything. EVO Japan, there's not really a lot of details that we can talk about yet. However, the only news that's out there is it's finally happening. We have a launch window, which is going to be January 2018 is when we're hoping the event is going to be. We don't have the exact date yet or the location, but obviously that's going to be coming very shortly, hopefully.
Now, when people think of EVO, and certainly the tournament organizers, they think of the Cannon Bros, and they think of Mr. Wizard. In what capacity are you involved in EVO Japan?
EVO Japan is actually my baby, so I'm going to be taking care of that event. I'm very gracious for this opportunity working with Tom, Tony, and of course Joey to kind of expand EVO and really give it a shot on this whole project for EVO Japan. As you guys know, in the past, years and years ago, and due to unforeseen circumstances, EVO Japan was never to actually happen over here. It never actually came to fruition. But with everything that's moving forward, I think we're finally hitting it off the right way, and it's actually finally going to happen.
I mean, what is it, if I can just be devil's advocate, what is it that EVO Japan delivers that we didn't already have? Like, what are you hoping to provide with another EVO set in Japan?
Well, we're trying to just bring that same EVO event, the same feel, the same hype, everything that we've created in Vegas, and we're trying to do it here in Japan. So whether that's, we don't know what the games yet. Obviously, we want to kind of cater to the Japanese scene, but we also want to invite the world to it, just like what we do with EVO in Vegas.
Now, I know that, for example, at EVO, one of the ways that an EVO makes money, obviously from the people who buy tickets, the people who compete, the people who enter, people who buy booths and set up their shops, and there's a lot of money that comes into EVO as a business. But the games as well, and sometimes help the venue, help the tournament organizers by providing pop bonuses or other incentives. Is there hunger in Japan for fighting games that maybe haven't come out yet to have a place like an EVO Japan with that pedigree to showcase future games? Like, is this forward thinking in that we're prepping for the next wave of FGC, or maybe the growth of the FGC overseas, or am I anywhere in the ballpark there?
Well, I think it's like a mix of both. Obviously, EVO is always a place where developers and publishers like to show off their titles. It's stuff that we always consider, but as you know, we don't sell spots for EVO. We like to give communities a chance. We like to give them a place to showcase their title. So I think it'll be interesting. I mean, it's so far away. So it's in 2018. So it's really hard to kind of understand what games or what types of games we'll actually have at EVO. Because one of the things that we talked about during the press conferences this past week is that it's not going to be the strict traditional sense of a fighting game at EVO Japan. We're open to doing actually more than just that.
So more esports, broader esports.
Or is this like Gundam versus Gundam or Final Fantasy Dissidia? Like, I don't even know.
Yes, and you probably heard Z laughing in the background, but yeah, it's open to whatever really Japan is into. So obviously
I mean,
we want
that's
to
a lot
have
of stuff.
yeah, well, it's obviously we want to have the core fighting games still, of course, but we're open to seeing what other popular games are out there that we might want to be able to display, show off to the world.
I saw you tweeting about Square Enix, and then you even took a picture of Final Fantasy, and you were being vague about it. Is there a Final Fantasy fighting game in the works?
Dissidia. It's like Gundam-y, you know. I think it's 3v3 now. It was on the PSP. It's in arcade.
Okay, I'm
pretty
being
tight.
educated here.
Final Fantasy Dissidia is actually I saw it in the arcade and got to play it for the first time. It's a 3v3 game, and if you guys are familiar with the 2 PSP iterations that came out, it's pretty much like a Final Fantasy All-Stars competition game.
Okay.
But this is just an elaborate ploy so Mr. Wizard and I can get copies of Final Fantasy 15 early.
Did it work?
I hope so.
Mark,
No, but obviously we're talking to a lot of game developers. We're trying to maximize our time here in Japan. As again, EVO Japan is so far away, but we just want to talk to everybody to see what the possibilities are. So we're pretty much aware of what games are popular in the arcades and amongst the communities here. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously one of them. Dissidia is one of the newer games out in arcades here. No home port yet, but we'll see how it goes. I think a lot of these guys, the developers in particular, have their hearts in the right place. They've seen the magic of EVO. It's interesting because the Square Enix CEO and a lot of his team were actually out at EVO this past year, and they had nothing but amazing things to say about it. So that was a good feeling.
Are you the guy that invited them out?
They've actually been going for the past few years now.
Because, Mark, I mean, people knew you as, you know, the guy that worked Team Mad Cats. You were in charge of the players, and, you know, people saw you there at the booth and doing all kinds of stuff. And then that kind of shifted. And to me, it's somewhat of an enigma how that all went down, but also how it is that you're still so involved in, like, looks like you're doing more now with the FGC than maybe before. Can you clear up a little bit of how that transition went down from leaving Mad Cats to now being the guy that's got his fingers in every FGC pod, it feels like?
Sure. Wow. I just realized that Z was also at Mad Cats too.
Oh yeah.
It was. We were just talking about this the other day. It was like some of the best times that we've had. I think my time with Mad Cats obviously was a very fun roller coaster ride. I have nothing but love and respect for the company. You guys might remember at EVO last year, EVO in 2015, I kind of announced that it's probably going to be my last EVO with Mad Cats, and I'm looking to do my own thing. Even though Mad Cats knew that, they decided to lay me off. That way they could. I was laid off, and they were able to take care of me. I was able to get a nice severance package, mm-hmm. and receive benefits that I normally wouldn't if I had left on my own. So even though they knew I was trying to do my own thing and I was planning on leaving, they were able to take care of me, and I do respect them a lot for that.
I imagine you sowed a lot of goodwill with that company over the years.
Oh yeah, actually, I was just at their offices a few weeks ago. I'm still trying to help them where I can, but obviously it's a different company now, especially with the restructuring. But again, I am confident. They make products which I'm very passionate about. The arcade sticks and the fight sticks and stuff like that, those are my babies. People think that I'm just like the community guy, or when I was at Mad Cats, I was just the community guy, but I was a product manager for the longest time there for all the fighting game stuff. I helped design a lot of the products there that came out of Mad Cats. So I have pretty much the whole FGC program was me and a few guys there. So it was something I was very passionate about. I love fighting games, and I've been doing a lot of different things in the background with different fighting game companies over the years, and that's probably why you see me involved, or so much involved with different companies and fighting games still, is because I still keep in contact with everyone, and I still have the same goal, is to help improve the fighting game scene overall.
What do you think has been your legacy in that regard?
Oh, my legacy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not done yet, right? There's still more to come, but you talk about how much you've done. What stands out?
Well, oh man, I never thought about that. I want to ask Z. Z, anything stand out for you at our time at Mad Cats? Because you have it from a different perspective. I was in there since the beginning.
Well, just seeing you and how you operated, I would say the launch of the TE, and then the thing that I referenced the most when we were trying to get Daigo on board as a global ambassador for Twitch is when you signed him and Mago and Tokido, and you had to, fight that fight internally because this is something that was unprecedented. Now it's sort of commonplace, and everyone and their grandmother at a tournament has an acronym before their name. But you have to remember back then, sponsorship was not a common thing, and especially when you're trying to start that initiative to upper management that is not so understanding of why there is necessity for that. What is the connection between sponsoring pro players, and then how do you get that to translate into selling more sticks?
Z, would you say that MarkMan is responsible for the modern era of how we see players getting signed these days across all esports to a degree?
When you start at the top of the pyramid with Daigo and Mahara, and then it sort of cascades down, everyone who is sponsored now should in some way thank Mark for that, because it set a precedent, and now it's a very common, standard thing. I'm sure it would have happened, and come to pass regardless, but the fact that it started off with Daigo, I think, had pretty important ramifications for the entire group, the entire FGC.
Now, Z, since we got you now, another guy that works hard. And I saw you. I even screen capped at one point during the Japan Cup because you were standing right in the middle of the camera and you were looking down at your phone and you're like blocking the shot, and I was like, "This is hilarious." Anyway, you looked like you were working really hard, running around trying to get things going. It appeared, at least to the American or the Western artists or whatever, that on the main, quote-unquote, mainstream, some matches weren't being streamed. It sounded from following on Twitter that a lot of really good matches got played off-stream, and there was general frustration about a tournament which, A, is a premiere, and B, a lot of people want to see. I mean, this is an important one. It's at an event where Sony and the big guys are there, and the works. What happened on the floor? What can you tell us? That says a lot already.
Okay, let me just preface by saying that as a foreigner, and we do a lot of events in all of Asia for Capcom Pro Tour. Japan is a paradox because it has the highest level of gameplay. I believe that well over half of the players that will be competing in our regional qualifiers come from Japan. So this is absolutely pinnacle. This is where all the beasts come out to play. Conversely, the paradox is that it's probably one of the most difficult because of language barriers and cultures to throw a Western style tournament. By Western style, I mean open tournament, double elimination. You're trying to highlight marquee matches of the top players. A lot of those things that the Capcom Pro Tour is used to showing as a product, an online product, just doesn't translate well when you have Gaijin, coming in and trying to work with the local staff, and that's a failure on our end, I would say, primarily.
Well, I want to chime in because
please.
With Mad Cats, we were running the Tokyo Game Show event for the past 2 years now, and I saw the changes that you made with Twitch, and especially with Capcom. This is the first year we've had more players that were able to play, and it was spread out over 2 days. So you guys actually did listen to feedback and did want to kind of cater to the community more. I don't know if it looked like it for people watching from the outside, but the fact that you guys were able to make those changes, I thought was really big because it takes a lot of time and money and resources and manpower to be able to run this event at Tokyo Game Show. And for the traditional fighting game enthusiast and for the tournament goer, TGS is not the place you want to run a tournament at. It is by far one of the most difficult places where you have to finish everything by 5 p.m. Everyone lives super far away, so people just want to bang it out and get it done as soon as possible. So it's kind of difficult.
TGS is actually a misnomer. It's not located in Tokyo at all. It's actually in Chiba. So as Mark had mentioned, the logistics of running this tournament in this location is incredibly difficult. For the same price, you could probably... It costs, I would say, 3 to 4 times as much to run a tournament of the same size here in Tokyo Game Show, which is in Chiba, than it is to do it in town. And it's the same thing with E3, right? Everyone laments the exorbitant cost of doing an event there, and some companies have moved off-site. We're strongly considering, because of the mishaps of this year and in years past at Mad Catz, to really reconsider, is it the brightest idea, just to get that surge of that crowd on that last day, which is incredibly beautiful, to do an event out here where we could be doing something much more affordable and much more catered to a much more higher number of registrants if we were to do it at a different location. So I'm leaning towards, that this was the final hurrah at TGS, but rest assured, we know that the best action is here, so we'll be doing more tournaments.
Now, Z, just to be clear, because I saw some comments here in the chat, by no way am I trying to imply that this was your fault, that the stream was not up to par at all. In fact, quite the opposite, and I'm glad that you're here to talk to us about the actual efforts that you were undergoing to try to get it to run more smooth. So just wanted to clarify that. But it brings me to the next question, which is this a one-off issue where, it just logistically was not the best place to run a tournament, especially one of this caliber? Or does this indicate on any level that maybe we're moving too fast in FGC Esports? We need to slow it down? Or, what does this tell you guys when you debrief on it?
Well, when your global ambassador dies off stream at his own booth and it's not streamed, I think that there are glaring, differences in philosophy of what a tournament should be. But I think that, the tournament itself ran incredibly well, for what it's worth. But the interpretation of what that streamed product should look like, it was an incredible disservice to those that were on /Capcom Fighters. Though I'm sure if you were on the Japanese channel, there was probably more matches if you were to count them all up. So it was on our side that we had difficulties finding matches to stream. But the people that you don't see, the tireless heroes in the back, the Spookies, Lewis, Farp, cameraman, they're the unspoken people and we can only stream what is given to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not the tournament organizers. But just to tie that into EVO Japan, it's a lesson that I think when you try to come into a foreign country and you try to do certain things in your way, you can't take that for granted that would translate one-to-one. So when I saw that EVO Japan made the announcement that they're working with very, very big and well-known partners, I was incredibly happy about that, because that to me shows an indication that it's not going to be EVO sort of barreling down like Godzilla, say, hey, my way and the highway, we're going to replicate what we're going to do in Las Vegas, but they're willing to work with the local partners and interpret what EVO means, but still carry that spirit, the main spirit of EVO, which is a community-run event, but have some Japanese flavor to it and are willing to bend. So we just needed to do that. But again, that a lot of these problems are because we are at Tokyo Game Show and we have a hard stop and the costs are just ballooning. So that probably wouldn't have happened had we been in a different location.
And this one's for possibly both of you as well. On the topic of EVO Japan, a lot of people look to Japanese tournaments and they think of SBO Togeki from years past. And just a specific question, maybe too specific to answer, is how willing EVO Japan is to stretch. Are team tournaments a possibility like they were in the past? Is it definitely going to be double elimination? How different from EVO will this be?
I think from what Joey and I, what Mr. Wizard and I had discussed with a lot of the people here, is we want to bring the core aspect of EVO, which is a double elimination tournament, to Japan. So I think we're going to go with that formula, and unless it really doesn't work out for some reason. But I know for a fact that some of Japan's biggest tournaments, they are team tournaments, and we're aware of that. So the biggest Tekken tournament here is a team tournament. The biggest Virtua Fighter tournament is a team tournament. The biggest Street Fighter event is a team tournament as well. So it's stuff that we're paying attention to and we're open to as well. But I don't think we'll do like a single tournament and then a team tournament as well for the same game. Just for we don't want to have overkill or I guess too much exposure for one title over the rest.
Mm-hmm. So I've spoken to some people, some players about why that is. And now that more and more Japanese players are getting sponsored and becoming pros outright, something like a CBT is considered a, quote unquote hardcore serious tournament. So if I'm Joe Schmo with only LP 1,000 LP points, I'm not that apt to join the tournament. However, if it's something that can be more casual without any points or money attached to it, such as the Topanga Charity Cup, and I can join in on my with my teammates, and you have one job, right? It's just to play your match. But you have like Nakama. I mean, it's like One Piece, right? You have all your comrades to back you up. You are more apt as a middle or low tier player to join in that, and that's how you got well over 1,000 people at the Topanga Charity Cup. So I think there's the psychology between joining a team tournament and a single one as hard as this, because this was just killers in every pool. Is incredibly different, and they have different outcomes and different uses. But I also think they speak to different levels of players as well.
So you see, we're talking to two guys that are seeing a bird's eye view of the FGC as an industry, as an esport, as a phenomenon. You think that's where the future is? And speaking of that, speak to that, and then we'll just talk about other things that I'm curious about moving forward. Do you think that appealing to that mass market is the future?
I think it's going to bifurcate in two ways. A lot of jokes are made by floating the players to the top. In some way, an exhibition match is that, right? You're doing invitation only. I do think when you don't need to cater to 1,000 or 256 players, and you can concentrate on, let's say, the 16 best or the top 8, you can come up with some really crazy stuff that you couldn't otherwise do for an open tournament. And that's why, the Topanga League for years now has been probably the highest level of Street Fighter play in the world, right? And the regional finals will largely emulate that for every region. So I'm incredibly excited about the Asia one, where a lot of the players will be there, the top players will be there. But then again, the fact that anyone can qualify through I think that's the beauty of the Capcom Cup. You get to see both sides. The regional qualifiers are sort of like the all-stars, if you will. But to get to that point, you have to crawl your way through the open tournament. So yeah, the Capcom Cup it speaks to both styles of tournament, and that's why if you were to ask a lot of people, it's the most prestigious thing you can win for a Street Fighter player now. I think that's what Kazunoko said when he won. This is like his crown.
And that prize pool just got a lot fatter too for Capcom Cup with the DLC. Man, that's getting like a nice prize there at the end of at the end of a year of competing. It really is hard to ignore that. Like it's like 325,000 now, I think, or approaching. Guys, I'm looking down at my rundown that I made for myself to things that I want to talk to you about for infrastructure. These are things that I wanted to bring up. Future infrastructure, is it saturated? The marketing, is it an esports bubble? And I'm looking down at it and it just seems so damn depressing. What are some of the reasons that you guys love working in the FGC? Mark, I'll kick it back to you.
For me, I just love fighting games, and I love the experiences I've had with my local community and everything that I've done in between. So I obviously still want to be involved, and it keeps me involved not only on the community side, but also on the business side, working with some of my favorite games, some of my favorite IPs. And it's really, I'm living the dream. I'm able to work with the guys that make Street Fighter, the guys that make Tekken, the guys that make Guilty Gear, and I never thought I would be able to do that growing up. And I'm going to continue to do that and improve my hobby or my community at the same time. And it's a good feeling when these companies trust you enough that they want to show you things early. They want your feedback on things. They want to work on a project with you to help make a product. That kind of stuff. It's what motivates me to keep doing more. Is I really want to do things that not only just to do for the sake of doing cool shit, but also if in any way that it can help benefit the community, I'm all about it. And that's luckily I've been presented with a lot of those kinds of opportunities over the past few years, and I'm going to keep running with them until hopefully we get to the next level of whatever the fighting game community is supposed to be, or until the wheels fall off, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Not to bust you on this, but just in relation to that, I think a few people who aren't as in the know of the Tekken scene kind of just wonder maybe a general overview of what's happened with Tekken 7. I know we've had like 2 EVOs now with the game not being released on console. It's been a long time where there wasn't a date. I know the keys to Tekken 7 were stolen a couple times. Is there like any overview you can give of that?
Yeah, so okay, Tekken 7 has a release window now. It's going to be early 2017. And the way Tekken works is actually very interesting because it's one of the few games that still has a huge arcade presence. And Bandai Namco has a great relationship with the arcade operators where they actually really have to still create content for the arcades, and they have to give it to them for a timely manner. So for Tekken 7, and for the past few Tekkens, there's always been the vanilla version or the first version of Tekken. Then there'd be an update maybe a year later. So that's what we're seeing right now with Tekken 7, and then now Tekken 7 Faded Retribution, where it includes more characters, different balance changes and stuff like that. So it's actually waiting for 2 games really instead of just waiting for Tekken 7 to be ready. But aside from that, and I hate to put Capcom on blast, but I think waiting for a complete product and making sure it's ready, making sure it's finely tuned is so important nowadays. We've seen the consumer feedback and it's not a good thing. We got to keep pushing the developers to create amazing content, making sure single player content is ready. And for me, Tekken is one of my favorite franchises. I want them to take all the time in the world. Make sure the game comes out, obviously. I want the game to come out, but please make sure it doesn't suck so it sells and it continues to sell and more people are able to see it.
Gentlemen, I know we were going to follow that question to Z next, but hot take, is Street Fighter V in trouble, and if so, how much?
I'll let you talk for Z.
I'm confident. I was actually, I'm going to admit, I was a big Street Fighter Cross Tekken fan. And if you look at the trajectory of the game, I know a lot of people have, it's since slipped from a lot of people's memory. Mm-hmm. It was a good and complete game towards the end of its product life cycle.
But the damage was done.
Yeah. The damage was done, right? The PR story, the gems, everything, the jab, and the timer, everything was working against it. And no matter how polished of a game it was at the very end, perhaps it didn't make a huge dent in the sales trajectory. It was what it was because of the launch. I have complete faith that the team can make a turnaround on the product itself. For Street Fighter V, and it'll be a glorious game, just as Street Fighter Cross Tekken was. The great thing about it is it's marketed as such. It is a platform game, right? It's continuously evolving. It is actually every time a new character is launched, it's I play a lot of mobile games. It's like a time to jump in. You can jump in at any time that you want and still be playing this game as long as Capcom's supporting it. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, in our personal lives, if you ever made like a big mistake and wanted forgiveness, you've been given a second chance. Like, be real. These are humans working on the product. If you look at their track record, they've done a tremendous job. And I think even they would admit that a lot of things could have been done better in the beginning, but give them a second chance. Or what are you going to do? Like, this is like the greatest product out there for fighting games, and as a result of that, they are changing, with increased pot bonuses at Capcom Cup, for example. It's changing people's lives. The winner of Capcom Cup this year, as it was last year for Kazunoko, changed his life tremendously. I can't go into like too many specifics. You can ask him himself, but this is like Make-A-Wish Foundation. People's lives are impacted positively for this thing, right? They can face their parents and say, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm a pro," and I get slapped in the face and go do your homework, go do your math homework. So, we should support it. And the baseline for support isn't, hey, you over there, you have to go buy a Vertigear chair and a $2,000 streaming rig, as perhaps the greater esports industry is modeled out to do, and go buy that GTX graphics card. All we want at the end of the day is your eyeballs. First and foremost, as an FGC player, you can have all that self-loathing and that memery of, oh yeah, we're poverty. All I want is your eyeballs, essentially. And with your eyeballs, with that captive audience, we can grow. Because there's people in the back room that translate those eyeballs into whatever it is that they do, the CPM, those magic elves in the back. And they help translate that viewership into and repatriate all those funds back into the product and make it bigger so that you and your keyboard quarterback friends on Saturday and Sunday have a great product to watch in the Capcom Pro Tour. So it's a very low baseline to contribute to the FGC. We just want you to watch. That's it.
Yeah. But then also everybody has their ad block on, and people look away from the commercials. Is it working? I mean, you're describing how it's supposed to work. Is it working as intended? Is that money being made back? Is it growing in the sense that, yes, the Capcom Cup has a nice prize purse at the end of the year? Is that spreading out? Are we approaching esports levels? Is this sustainable? Are we moving forward in a way that's healthy or not?
I think it's too early to tell. Obviously, this is the first year for Street Fighter V. I have tremendous respect for the team that's working on both Capcom Pro Tour and the game. Honestly, just to kind of take it back a little, if it wasn't for Street Fighter, this team, the Street Fighter 4 team, and of course Street Fighter 5, I would be living a completely different life.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for those guys that they actually really make it possible. And this is the industry that we're in, that a lot of people are looking at Capcom, they're looking at Street Fighter. They have to succeed in order for fighting games to do well. And I am one of the biggest cheerleaders for Street Fighter. I got a lot of shit over the years from people saying, like, I thought you were a Tekken guy. Why are you all about Street Fighter all the time? It's because it's done so much for the community. And just to kind of chime in again and talk about, is it there yet? Is it esports ready? What does that even mean? It's like Capcom is doing their thing. They're trying to make it for. You have to find the balance between making money and catering to the players, but also reaching out to the mass market and trying to bring in more people. So I think that being said, they're doing a good job. This is the biggest. This is the most tournament participants we've seen in a long time. EVO had a breakthrough year with 5,000 entrants for Street Fighter V. It was on ESPN, for God's sakes. Who could have said that years ago? But it's obviously there's a lot of wins here and there, but there's also a lot of hits and misses. So I think I'm confident enough in the team that especially anyone in the FGC, anyone that's in a position of power, is they learn from experiences. I don't want to say learn from mistakes, but they learn from experiences. And I'm confident that moving forward, they're always going to fine-tune and improve the product.
You guys both feel good about where we're at in the FGC then?
It could always be better. It could always be better, but it could always be worse too.
What's worse?
Yeah.
What's that worst scenario?
Oh man, the Dark Ages?
The Dark Ages.
Pre-2009? Yeah. I remember those days where the only ones that cared about the game were your community and no one else. Yeah, it could be worse for sure. But thanks to awesome platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and every other medium out there that really shows off games and personalities, it's growing. It may not be growing in an organized way, but it's growing and it's giving people more opportunities. So I'm all about that.
Zhi, do you have anything to add to that? I think we're coming to the end of the interview.
Yeah, just to go back on my earlier point, there's now like a bifurcation in the community. There's one that will attend the physical events and try to grind for those points, and I think those players have been around since the dawn of time, right? These are your FGC, if you will. And then on the other end, there's that online viewer community, and if we can nurture that, and again, all I want is your Oculus, your eyeballs fixated on the screen. And people can translate that and repatriate that into more resources back into the community. That's another thing that's growing that wasn't really, thought of or utilized before the advent of streaming platforms such as Twitch. So now you have these two forces coming together, and the FGC as a business, as an industry, is no longer just relying on the entry fees, who buys the joysticks and the broken tier shirts. You can now use the internet, as it were, to help fund the entire scene. So there's a lot of people trying to make that work. And yeah, I think as we get more creative with the way that we try to monetize it, I mean, it's 2016. Surely things have to evolve since FGC has started. And I like the fact that now we're moving into a Kickstarter-like campaign for, a compendium, if you will, for all that money, the extra prize pot money.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that you have to also remember. We're playing a game. We have fallen in love for the game, better or worse. That, well, I mean, it belongs to Capcom USA, but this is still a Japanese-produced game. These things take a lot of time for it to come down to here on this level and become accepted. So I think the Capcom, USA is doing a tremendous job in that respect, and pushing the game and making it evolve as a business model to not only rely on the people that purchase the game, but also able to capitalize on the viewership as well. And that's where the huge growth is, right? It's easier for me to teach you how to watch Street Fighter than it is for me to teach you how to play Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I don't even know how to play. I shouldn't say that because I commentate.
Don't reveal that, man.
I look at Donka play. I'm like, that guy would whip my ass. He has so much more frame knowledge. I mean, I was once that way in Street Fighter 4. But yeah, it's easier to grow viewership than it is to grow player base, right? Because you're just selling pure entertainment. There's no one frame links and turning on your browser and going to twitch.tv.
I often refer to Donka as Z 2.0. But you guys feel confident that the infrastructure that is developing, we're in good hands, and we have at least some good years ahead of us of growth and things of that nature.
As long as Hans is running the helm in the back, I have complete confidence, super optimistic about the product. I think they're going to make a huge turn if they haven't done so already. And yeah, Capcom Cup will all be in a better place. I'm super hyped for it.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for coming on to the show, especially since I think you guys are traveling back to the United States, presumably from Japan today. Is there anything we didn't ask you about that you guys want to leave us with, or anything like that?
No, I just want to thank you guys for doing the show. I want to thank the FGC that listens to this kind of stuff, and the FGC that's always looking to help the community grow and evolve. I hope you guys look forward to a lot of the cool stuff we're doing in Japan, but not just in Japan, but also in the U.S. in general. And to kind of chime in on Z's last comment, I know it was heavily focused on Street Fighter, but I think that goes for all communities as well. I really am confident in a lot of the different dev teams and publishers right now. They all have esports in mind. It's like the buzzword right now, especially within Japan, that they want to be able to contribute to the community, and they want to be able to cater to that community. So I'm pretty confident moving forward.
And we have guys like you telling them where to invest that, right?
Yeah. Short answer, yeah.
That's great. Guys, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I guess we'll see you around.